Okay, so we're going to talk about composite functions, and I'm not going to go over the domains associated with them in this video, but first steps of just how to evaluate, how to write them out. I'm not going to do them for evaluating numbers. I'm just more concerned about the x's. So some notation you'll see, it looks like the word fog, but this means compose. Compose function f with function g. You might see it written this way. What I want you to think about when you see this is this notation here, because I think this makes it way easier. If I want f compose g, that's the same as f of g of x. And when I'm saying the words of here, it doesn't mean multiply, it's just we're composing them together. But I think writing them like this makes it way clearer. So for example, I have f of x equals 3x plus 5 and g of x equals negative 4x plus 11. So I'm going to compose them together, f of g of x. And what I want you to concentrate on is the step from here to here. G of x is equal to a negative 4x plus 11. So I'm going to substitute negative 4x plus 11 in for g of x. That's where this is coming from. So now I want to evaluate function f with this expression. Well, function f is this, 3 times something plus 5. And that's what I do here. I write out f of that expression equals what f function is. 3 times, I like to put empty parentheses to represent where the variable is, plus 5. This and this, to me, are the same. But on the next step, you're going to substitute in this expression into the parentheses. And that's where I have this coming from. And then you'll just simplify, multiply that in, distribute it. I get negative 12x. I get 33 plus 5. And that should give me a negative 12x plus 38. If I go on to a little more complicated examples, f of x equals 5x squared plus 7, g of x equals x plus 4. I'm going to go f of g of x again. Again, g of x is on the inside. So I'm going to substitute x plus 4 in for that. And on this side, I'm going to write out what f is. F is 5 times something squared. So I have 5 parentheses squared plus 7. Inside the parentheses, I'm going to substitute x plus 4. Now, as far as composing the function, you're done, but simplifying it, I have to expand x plus 4 squared. That's what's happening here. I have to take that times 5 and add a 7 to the end. Now, you could check it, pause this, and check it, but it should end up being 5x squared plus 40x plus 87. But what happens if I change the order? I can also go g of f of x. I could also go f of x or g of f of g of f. You can just keep on writing chains. So to start with, g of f of x, well, on the inside is f of x now. So inside the g function, I have 5x squared plus 7. Okay, I look at what g of x is. It's just something plus 4, so I have parentheses plus 4. And into these parentheses go 5x squared plus 7. Simplify what you can, and I get 5x squared plus 11. And one thing you should notice here is that these two expressions are not the same, and they don't have to be. They will be, and we'll talk about that when we're checking inverses, but generally speaking, they do not have to be the same. More complicated, this would be one to think about maybe on your own here, play around with the domains, see what happens here. But I'm going to switch it up and go g of f of x here, and I just want you to look at what I'm doing. I have g, I put in what f of x is. G of x is 4 times x, so 4 times parenthesis. Whatever's in this parenthesis gets substituted in. I multiply the 4 and the 3 and get to 12. Going the other way, f of g of x. I substitute in for g of x, which is 4x. F of x looks like 3 over something plus 5. And I substitute the 4x into the parentheses. And there you are. There's not much more to do with that. So if you check the domains really fast, I see the domain of this one's all real numbers except negative 5. This one looks like it's all real numbers except a negative 5/4. So domains can change, and it gets more complicated than that. We will not discuss that in this particular video. Next example, more complicated yet. F of x equals a trinomial, g of x equals this. And I'm just repeating the process, so you might just want to pause this and follow my steps. And it should all work out fine here. I don't think I made any mistakes. G of f of x, much simpler. So go ahead and pause this, work through it. I'm doing the same steps I did before, except on this one I have two parentheses because I have x in two different places in that trinomial. So I have to substitute in the x minus 3 in two different spots.